Three girls bought like cattle arrive at a farm, unaware that the reason they are there is far darker than just marriage, and what they discover changes everything. The sun rose lazily over the horizon of the countryside, painting the sky orange and pink, while the rooster crowed for the third time announcing the day. Emily woke up with her body aching on the straw mattress, feeling the weight of the invisible chains she now carried. Beside her, Sarah and Lily were still sleeping, embracing each other as they had always done since they were little, seeking in mutual affection the strength that the world denied them. Thomas's big house breathed silence on that September morning. The thick walls kept the coolness of dawn, but Emily knew that in a few hours the heat would be unbearable. She got up slowly, adjusted her wrinkled skirt and walked to the small window overlooking the yard. Outside, Matthew was already in the corral, guiding the cattle to the water trough. His strong arms moved with precision, but Emily noticed something different in his gestures, a hesitation that didn't exist the day before. "Emily, are you awake?" Sarah whispered, rubbing her eyes with the back of her hand. "I couldn't sleep well. I had nightmares all night." "Me too," Emily replied, turning to her sisters. "But now it's day and we need to face whatever comes." Lily stretched like a lazy cat, her 10 years still carrying the innocence that the other two had already lost. "I'm hungry," she said simply, and Emily felt her heart tighten. Even there, in that situation, Lily continued to be just a child. The noise of pots coming from the kitchen indicated that Mrs. Francis, the only woman in the house besides them, was already preparing breakfast. Emily had discovered the day before that she was a 60-year-old widow who had been taking care of Thomas's house for more than 20 years. Her eyes seemed to carry stories, but she spoke little, only what was necessary. "Come, girls," Mrs. Francis's voice echoed down the hallway. "Breakfast is on the table." The three arranged themselves as best they could and walked to the dining room. The heavy wooden table was set with simple but clean dishware. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with freshly made pancakes awakened an appetite that Emily didn't even know she still had. Thomas was already seated at the head of the table, reading an old newspaper. Matthew, Raymond, and Louis occupied the other places, each lost in their own thoughts. "Sit down," Thomas said without raising his eyes from the newspaper. "Today you'll get to know the house and land better. Mrs. Francis will show you your duties." Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. Duties. The word echoed in her mind like a funeral bell. She looked at Sarah, who was nervously biting her lower lip, and then at Lily, who seemed more interested in the pancakes than in the conversation. "Mr. Thomas," Emily gathered courage to speak, "may I ask a question?" The man lowered the newspaper, slowly, his small penetrating eyes fixing on her. "Go ahead. When will the wedding take place?" The silence that followed was as heavy as lead. Matthew stopped chewing, Raymond lowered his head, and Louis nervously played with the handle of his cup. Even Mrs. Francis, who was returning from the kitchen with more coffee, stopped in the middle of the room. "When I decide you're ready," Thomas finally answered, "and when they're ready too." His gaze swept over his three sons, who avoided looking at him. "For now, you're going to learn to be part of this family." The word family sounded strange to Emily's ears. She, Sarah, and Lily had lost their family so long ago that they almost couldn't remember what it was like to have one. But that group around the table didn't seem like a real family. It seemed like a group of people trapped by the same fate, each carrying their own fears and secrets. After breakfast, Mrs. Francis took the girls to see the house. The rooms were simple but clean. The kitchen was spacious, with a wood stove that radiated heat even when unlit. The backyard had a small vegetable garden, a chicken coop, and a century-old oak tree that offered the only generous shade on the property. "You'll help me with the house," Mrs. Francis explained, her voice carrying a tired gentleness. "It's not heavy work, but it needs to be done well. Mr. Thomas doesn't tolerate sloppiness." While listening to the explanations, Emily couldn't stop thinking about the expression of the three brothers during breakfast. There was something there that wasn't being said, a secret that hung in the air like the dust raised by the wind, and she was determined to discover what it was, because she had the impression that her life and her sisters' lives depended on it. The afternoon arrived with its suffocating heat, and the girls had already learned the first lesson of the house. The work never stopped. Emily was sweeping the front yard, discreetly observing Matthew, who was fixing a fence near the corral. His movements were precise, but she noticed how he stopped now, and then wiping his sweaty face as if he carried a weight beyond the hammer in his hands. "He's not bad," Mrs. Francis whispered beside Emily, appearing silently as she always did. "None of the three are, but they all carry their father's marks." Emily stopped sweeping, curious. "What marks?" The older woman looked around, making sure they were alone. "Mr. Thomas has always been too rigid. Raised the boys with an iron hand. Matthew learned to work before playing. Raymond grew up quiet because talking too much cost dearly. And Louis," she sighed, "Louis was always different, more sensitive. He paid a higher price for that." Before Emily could ask more, Lily appeared running from the backyard, her eyes shining with curiosity. "Emily, come see, there's a notebook hidden under the oak tree." The three walked to the century-old tree, where Lily pointed to a small hole between the roots. Inside, wrapped in an oiled cloth, was a hardcover notebook with pages yellowed by time. Emily opened it carefully and found delicate drawings. Flowers, birds, countryside landscapes, and portraits of faces she didn't recognize. "They're beautiful drawings," Sarah murmured, lightly touching a page where a young woman was drawn with long hair and a serene smile. "Must be Lewis's," Mrs. Francis said, recognizing the notebook. "He always liked to draw. When he was little, he drew on the walls until his father beat him. Then he learned to hide." Emily closed the notebook carefully, a strange feeling of intimacy forming in her chest. There was something deeply personal in those drawings, a sensitivity that contrasted with the austere environment of the farm. She replaced the notebook in its hiding place, but couldn't get it out of her mind. Later, while helping Sarah hang clothes on the line, Emily spotted Raymond walking alone toward this dry creek that cut through the property. There was something in his posture, a sadness that seemed too heavy for a man his age. She wondered what story each of those brothers carried. "Sarah," Emily called softly, "have you noticed how they're different from what I expected?" "How so?" "I thought they would be tougher, more like their father. But there's something about them that's broken." Sarah nodded, hanging a shirt on the line. "I noticed too. Last night I heard Matthew talking to himself in his room. He seemed to be apologizing to someone. At that moment, Louis appeared in the yard carrying a bucket of water. When he saw the girls, he hesitated for a moment, as if unsure whether to approach or not. Emily took the initiative. "Good afternoon, Louis," she said gently. He stared at her, surprised. It was the first time someone had addressed him so naturally. "Good afternoon," he replied, his voice softer than she expected. "You draw very well," Emily said, observing his reaction. Louis's eyes widened. You saw my drawings?" Lily found the notebook. "I'm sorry, we didn't mean to go through your things." To her surprise, Louis didn't seem angry. On the contrary, a shy smile formed on his face. "No one's ever said I draw well." "Well, you do," Emily insisted, "especially the portraits. You have a lot of talent." "My father says it's a waste of time," Louis murmured, lowering his head. "That a man shouldn't be making scribbles." Emily felt a pang in her heart. "Your father is wrong. Art isn't a waste of time. It's a way of showing what's inside your soul." The words came out naturally, and Emily surprised herself with her own boldness. Louis stared at her with an expression that mixed gratitude and disbelief. You like drawing?" "I'd like to learn," Emily answered honestly. "I never had the opportunity." "I can teach you," Louis said quickly, then blushed. "I mean if you want, and if my father allows it." Before Emily could respond, Thomas's voice echoed from the porch. "Louis! Where are you, boy?" Louis startled, spilling some water from the bucket. "I have to go," he muttered, and ran off toward the house. Emily watched him leave, a strange feeling forming in her chest. There was something about Louis that awakened in her a feeling she couldn't define. It wasn't pity or fear. It was something closer to understanding. "He likes you," Sarah said softly, appearing beside her sister. "Don't be silly," Emily replied, but felt her face grow warm. "I saw how he looked at you, and you looked at him differently too." Emily didn't answer, but deep in her heart she knew Sarah was right. Something had changed in that simple conversation about drawings, and she wasn't sure if that was good or dangerous in a place where nothing seemed to be exactly what it appeared to be. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us what city you're viewing us from. We continue. Night fell like a heavy cloak over the farm, bringing with it relief from the heat and the mysterious sounds of the countryside. Emily was lying in her bed, listening to the crickets singing and the wind rustling the leaves of the oak tree, when she heard muffled footsteps in the hallway. She got up silently and went to the door, pressing her ear against the wood. "I can't take this anymore, Father." It was Matthew's voice, muffled but charged with emotion. "It's not fair to them or to us." "Fair?" Thomas's voice sounded cutting. "Who talked about fairness? I gave these girls a roof, food, protection. In exchange, you'll have wives and I'll have grandchildren to continue my name." But they didn't. "Choose this," Raymond joined the conversation. "And neither did we." The sound of a slap echoed in the hallway, followed by a muffled groan. Emily covered her mouth with her hand, horrified. "You don't choose anything in this house," Thomas said, coldly. "I choose for you as I've always done, and that's how I got everything we have today." "Father, please," Louis's voice was almost a whisper. "At least let it be gradual. Let them get used to it first." "It is already gradual," Thomas replied. "But my patience has limits. In a month, I want to see at least one wedding happening. Either you decide willingly, or I'll decide for you." Emily heard footsteps moving away and waited a few minutes before returning to bed. Her heart was beating so hard that she was sure it would wake her sisters. 1 month. They had only 1 month to do what? Accept their fate? Find a way out? The next morning, the atmosphere in the house was heavy. The 3 brothers avoided talking to each other, and Thomas seemed more grumpy than ever. Only Mrs. Francis maintained her normal routine, preparing breakfast and organizing household chores. "Emily," she called softly as they washed dishes, "did you hear anything last night?" Emily hesitated but decided to trust the woman. "I heard them talking about the wedding. Mr. Thomas said he's in a hurry." Mrs. Francis sighed deeply. "I knew this would happen. He's always been like that. When he decides something, he doesn't accept opposition." "Mrs. Francis," Emily murmured, "is there something you're not telling us? About this house, about our situation?" The older woman stopped washing the dishes, her hands trembling slightly. "There are many things, child. Many things it's better not to disturb." "But we need to know," Emily insisted. "Our lives depend on it." Mrs. Francis looked around, making sure they were alone. "Mr. Thomas isn't the first to do this. There have been other girls in this house." Emily's blood ran cold. "Other girls? Many years ago. I was young, had just arrived here to work. He brought 2 sisters, also orphans. They stayed a few months. But then—" She stopped as if the words were too heavy. "What happened to them?" "They left. One night, they simply disappeared. Mr. Thomas said they ran away, but I always knew there was more to that story." "Mrs. Francis, do you think they managed to escape?" The older woman avoided Emily's gaze. "I don't know, child. I only know I never heard from them again. And I also know that since then Mr. Thomas changed, became harder, more controlling with his sons." Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. "Do you think he might do something similar to us?" "I don't know," Mrs. Francis repeated, but her voice trembled. "I only know you need to be careful, very careful." That afternoon, while Lily played with the chickens in the yard and Sarah helped in the kitchen, Emily found Matthew fixing a piece of the fence. There was a purple bruise on his left cheek, confirmation of what she had heard the night before. "Matthew," she called softly. He raised his head, surprised. "What do you want?" "I want to talk about last night." The hammer fell from Matthew's hands and he looked around nervously. "You heard?" "I heard, and I want you to know that I understand." "Understand what?" "That you didn't choose this situation. Either that you're also a prisoner here. Matthew stared at her for a long moment, as if assessing whether he could trust her. "You don't understand anything," he said finally, but his voice had no anger, only tiredness. "Then explain it to me," Emily said, sitting on a nearby rock. "Tell me what I don't understand." Matthew hesitated, then sat down beside her. "My mother was a good woman," he began slowly. "She could soften my father's temper. When she was gone, everything changed. He became more rigid, more controlling, as if trying to control life so that nothing else could escape his control. And you never thought about leaving? To go where?" Matthew laughed bitterly. "We have nothing beyond this land, and my father always made it clear that if we left, we wouldn't have a family anymore." Emily felt a pang of compassion. "You're adults, you can make your own decisions." "Maybe," Matthew agreed, "but it's hard to break the chains of a lifetime. And now," he looked at Emily, "now you're here, and I don't know how to protect you and ourselves at the same time." "Maybe it's not about protection," Emily said calmly. "Maybe it's about finding a way out that works for all of us." Matthew stared at her with an expression that mixed hope and skepticism. "What kind of way out?" "I don't know yet," Emily admitted, "but I'm sure there is one. We just need to be smart and work together." For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant sound of cattle in the pasture. Then, Matthew nodded slowly. "Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time to stop accepting everything quietly." Emily smiled, feeling for the first time since she arrived there that perhaps there was hope. But deep in her heart, she knew that discovering the truth about the girls who had been there before them would be crucial to any plan they might make. A week passed since the conversation with Matthew, and Emily began to notice subtle changes in the household dynamics. Sarah, who had always been shy, was gradually getting closer to Raymond, attracted by his silent and melancholic nature. Lily, in turn, followed Louis like a shadow, fascinated by his drawings and the gentleness he showed only when his father wasn't around. It was Sunday, and Thomas had gone out to visit neighboring farms, taking with him part of the tension that always hung in the air. Mrs. Francis took advantage of his absence to relax the rules a bit, and for the first time since they arrived, the girls felt free to explore the house more freely. Emily found Sarah in Raymond's room, helping him organize some tools. The intimacy between them was evident, but there was something deeper there, a mutual understanding that transcended words. "He told me about their mother," Sarah whispered to Emily when they left the room. "She was a seamstress, made the most beautiful clothes in the region, died when Louis was about our Lily's age. How did it happen? Fever. Raymond said she had been wasting away for months, but their father wouldn't spend money on a doctor from town. Said God would take her if it was his will." Emily felt a tightness in her chest. "Is that why he's so quiet?" He said. He stopped talking much after she was gone. That words didn't serve any purpose anymore since they couldn't save her. Meanwhile, Lily had discovered a new hiding place of Louis's, a secret drawer in his nightstand where he kept his most special drawings. Among them was a detailed portrait of a young woman with delicate features and kind eyes. "That's my mother," Louis explained when Lily asked. "I draw her sometimes, so I don't forget her face." "She was very beautiful," Lily said with the typical honesty of children. "You got her eyes," Louis smiled sadly. "My father always says I took after her more than I should have, that a man can't be sensitive like a woman." "Your father is wrong," Lily declared firmly. "My sister Emily says sensitivity is a good thing, that sensitive people see the world in a more beautiful way." The child's words touched something deep in Louis. He looked at her with an expression of gratitude, and for the first time in years, felt understood. Later, Emily was on the porch when Matthew approached, carrying a letter in his hands. "It arrived today," he said, extending the envelope. "It's for you." Emily was surprised. "For me? But who would know I'm here?" "I don't know." The mailman said it came from Portland. With trembling hands, Emily opened the letter. The handwriting was elegant, feminine, and the words she read made her heart race. Dear Emily, you must be surprised to receive this letter. My name is Teresa, and I was in this same house 10 years ago. I managed to leave with my sister, but I never forgot the girls who might come after us. I know you have doubts and fear. I had them too, but I want you to know there is a way out. I can't explain everything by letter, but if you can go to St. Mary's Church in town next Wednesday at 3 in the afternoon, I'll be there. Be careful who you trust. Not everything is as it seems in that house. A friend who understands your suffering, Teresa. Emily read the letter 3 times, trying to process the information. The previous girls hadn't just disappeared. At least one of them had managed to build a new life. And now she was offering help. Who is Teresa? Matthew asked, noticing Emily's paleness. Emily hesitated but decided to trust him. One of the girls who were here before us. She wants to meet me. Are you going? I need to go. It might be our only chance to discover the truth. Matthew reflected for a moment. Wednesday my father will be in town, taking care of business. I can take you there with the excuse of buying supplies. You would do that? I would, but there's one condition. What? Whatever this Teresa says, promise you won't leave without talking to us first. My brothers and I, we also need to know if there's a way out. Emily extended her hand, and Matthew grasped it firmly. I promise. That night, Emily shared the news with Sarah and Lily. Her sister's reaction was mixed. Lily was excited about the possibility of adventure, while Sarah showed concern. What if it's a trap? Sarah asked. What if Mr. Thomas discovers you went out? It's a risk I need to take, Emily replied. We can't stay here waiting for things to improve on their own. But what if this Teresa can't help us? What if there really is no way out? Emily looked out the window, where the full moon illuminated the countryside with its silvery light. Then at least we'll know we tried, and sometimes trying is already halfway to succeeding. While her sisters slept, Emily stayed awake planning the conversation with Teresa. She had so many questions, so many doubts. But for the first time since she arrived at that house, she felt that perhaps there was hope beyond those walls. In the room next door, Louis was also awake, drawing by candlelight Emily's face, which had become frequent in his notebooks. He couldn't explain what he felt, but he knew she had brought something new to his life, a possibility of a future he had never considered before. And in the silence of the country night, the destinies of everyone in that house began to intertwine in ways none of them could yet imagine. Wednesday arrived wrapped in grey clouds that promised rain, a rarity in the countryside that left everyone on the farm hopeful. Emily woke up, with her heart racing, knowing that this day could change everything in her life. Matthew had confirmed the night before that he would be able to take her to town, taking advantage of a trip that was already planned. Are you sure you want to do this? Sarah asked while fixing her older sister's hair. We still have time to give up. I can't give up, Emily replied, observing her reflection in the small, cracked mirror. This might be our only chance to discover the truth. Lily, who was sitting on the bed swinging her legs, interrupted, I want to go too. No, Lily, it's dangerous. You stay here with Sarah and behave yourself. But I want to meet Teresa too. Emily knelt in front of her younger sister. When I return, I'll tell you everything, I promise. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Matthew brought the wagon to the front door. Thomas had left in the morning and wouldn't return until the end of the day, but even so, Emily felt her nerves on edge. Does Mrs. Francis know? She asked Matthew as they climbed into the wagon. She knows. She said she would turn a blind eye. It seems this Teresa has tried to contact her before. The trip to town was tense. Emily constantly looked back, fearing to see Thomas appearing on the road. Matthew, noticing her nervousness, tried to distract her with conversations about the region, but both knew they were taking an enormous risk. St. Mary's Church was small and simple, with peeling white walls and a wooden cross on top. Emily arrived a few minutes before 3 o'clock, and Matthew waited in the wagon at a safe distance. Inside the church, there was only one woman kneeling on the first bench, praying silently. Emily approached slowly, and when the woman turned, she immediately recognized the kind eyes she had already seen in dreams. Emily? The woman asked softly. Teresa. The two embraced like old friends, and Emily felt an inexplicable emotion taking hold of her. Teresa was a woman of about 30, with brown hair tied in a simple bun and modest but well-kept clothes. "You've grown into a beautiful woman," Teresa said, holding Emily's hands. "When I heard that the three of you were on the farm, my heart almost stopped." "How did you know?" "I have contacts in the region, people who let me know when Mr. Thomas makes his acquisitions." Emily shivered at the word. "Can you tell me what happened? Why did you leave?" Teresa sighed deeply. "Sit down, it's a long story." The two sat on the church bench, and Teresa began to tell. "There were two of us sisters, Carol and me. We arrived there when we were 12 and 14, orphans like you. At first it seemed like we had been saved from life on the streets. Mr. Thomas was younger, less bitter, but already showed signs of wanting to control everything around him." "And his sons?" "Matthew was just a boy but already worked like a man. Raymond was a sad child who hardly spoke. Louis hadn't been born yet." Emily tried to imagine the brothers younger, more innocent. "What happened that made you leave?" "Mr. Thomas started pressuring us to get married. I was assigned to Matthew, Carol to Raymond, but we discovered something terrible." "What?" Teresa hesitated as if the words were too heavy. "Before us, there were other girls. Mr. Thomas always did this, brought orphans to marry his sons, but when they refused or tried to escape." "What happened?" "They disappeared. Simply vanished. Mrs. Francis, who was young at the time, told us in secret, said some tried to run away but were brought back. After that, they were never seen again." Emily felt her blood freeze in her veins. "Do you think that he did something to them?" "I don't know, but I know he has connections with dangerous people, traders who don't ask questions, and I know he never accepted a refusal." "Then how did you manage to leave?" Teresa smiled sadly. "We had help. Mrs. Francis helped us discover that our mother had left a small inheritance in Portland, enough to start a new life. She helped us escape one dawn when Mr. Thomas traveled to a cattle fair." "And he didn't go after you?" "He did, but we already had fake documents and moved far away. It took years to get established, but we did it." Emily absorbed the information, feeling a mixture of hope and terror. "Teresa, do you think we can make it too?" "I can help you. I have contacts in Portland, people who can provide work and housing, but you need to be sure you want this. Life outside the farm isn't easy." "Anything is better than being forced to marry against our will." Teresa nodded. "I knew you would say that. There's something about you three that reminds me of us at the same age. The courage hasn't been completely broken yet. What do we need to do?" "First thing, you need to buy time. Mr. Thomas is in a hurry, but can be convinced to wait if there's a good reason. Second thing, you need to gather whatever documents and money you can. And third thing, you need to decide if you're going alone or if you're trying to convince his sons to go too." "His sons?" "Matthew and Raymond are adults, but they're trapped in the same chains as you. Louis is a minor but also suffers from his father's rigidity. If you can convince them to leave too, Mr. Thomas will be alone. It will be harder for him to come after you." Emily thought of Matthew, his willingness to help her, of Raymond and his silent sadness, of Louis and his hidden drawings. "Do you think they would accept?" "I don't know, but I know Matthew was always kind, even as a child, and I know they all suffered from the loss of their mother. They might be ready for a change." Teresa took a paper from her pocket. "Here's my address in Portland. When you're ready, send a message. I'll help. How can we thank you?" "Don't thank me, just be free. It's what Carol and I always wished for the girls who would come after us." Emily was moved. "Is Carol well?" "She is. Married for love, has 2 children. Lives happily. It's possible, Emily. Happiness is possible." When Emily returned to the wagon, she had a determination in her eyes that Matthew hadn't seen before. On the way back, she told him everything Teresa had said. "Are you willing to try?" she asked when they finished talking. Matthew was silent for a long time. "I'm tired of living in fear," he finally said. "If you can convince my brothers, I'm in." Emily smiled, feeling for the first time, in months, a real hope. Freedom wasn't just a dream, it was a real possibility. Now she just needed to convince the people she loved to fight for it. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us what city you're viewing us from. We continue. The rain that the clouds promised finally arrived that night, drumming on the tile roof like a symphony of hope. Emily gathered Sarah and Lily in her room, telling them everything about the meeting with Teresa. Her sister's reaction was exactly what she expected. Lily was excited about the adventure, while Sarah showed concern. "Are you sure we can trust her?" Sarah asked, nervously wringing her hands. "I am," Emily answered with conviction. "She went through the same thing we did. She knows what we're feeling. But what if Mr. Thomas discovers our plan? That's why we need to be careful, and that's why we need to convince Raymond and Louis to come with us." Lily jumped off the bed. "I'll talk to Louis. He likes me. He'll listen to me." "Slow down, Lily. We can't appear desperate. It needs to be natural." In the following days, Emily began to carefully observe the routine of the house, looking for the right moment to approach each of the brothers. Matthew was already on their side, but Raymond and Louis still needed to be convinced. The opportunity with Raymond came when Sarah fell ill with a sudden fever. Emily noticed how concerned he was, bringing teas and checking her temperature every hour. On the third night, when the fever finally broke, Emily found him alone on the porch. "You care a lot about her, don't you?" Emily asked, sitting beside him. Raymond looked at her surprised. "What are you talking about?" "About Sarah. I see how you look at her, how you take care of her." Raymond was silent for a long moment. "She reminds me of my mother," he finally said. "She has the same gentleness, the same way of caring for others. Would you like to protect her?" "I would, but I don't know how." Emily took a deep breath. "I know a way, but I need you to trust me." She told him everything about Teresa, about the escape plan, about the possibility of a different life. Raymond listened in silence, and when she finished, he asked just one question. "Are you sure it can work?" "I'm not sure of anything, but I know if we stay here, we'll never be truly free." "And Sarah? Does she agree?" "She's afraid, but she agrees. She wants a life where she can choose her own future." Raymond nodded slowly. "Then I'll go with you. But there's one condition." "What?" "If something goes wrong, if my father finds out, I take all the blame. I say it was my idea, that I convinced you." Emily was touched by his generosity. "Raymond, you don't need to—" "I do. My mother always said that a real man protects those he loves, and I love Sarah, even knowing she may never reciprocate." "You're mistaken," Emily said softly. "Sarah talks about you all the time, in the smallest ways, but she does." A shy smile appeared on Raymond's face. "Really?" "Really. She said you have the most careful hands she's ever seen. That when you take care of her, she feels safe." Convincing Louis was more difficult. He was young, more attached to his father despite everything, and afraid to leave the only life he knew. Emily decided to use a different approach. "Louis," she said one morning when she found him drawing under the oak tree, "have you ever imagined what it would be like to show your drawings to people in the city?" He looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "People who understand art, who could teach you to draw even better." "My father says drawing is foolishness." "Your father is wrong. I've seen your drawings, Louis. You have real talent. But here, in this place, it will never be able to grow." Louis closed the notebook, thoughtful. "Are you talking about leaving?" "I'm talking about living, really living, about choosing what to do with your life. But this is my place, my family. Your family can come too," Matthew and Raymond already agreed. Louis's eyes widened. "They agreed?" "Yes, because we all know there's something more waiting out there, something better than living in fear." Louis was silent for a long time, absent-mindedly scribbling in his notebook. "What if it doesn't work out? What if we can't survive out there? What if it does work out? What if we finally manage to be happy? Do you think it's possible to be happy?" Emily smiled, remembering Teresa's words. "I think it's possible. But we'll only find out if we try. Lewis looked at her with an expression that mixed fear and hope. If I go, can I take my drawings? You can take everything that's important to you. Then I'll go. That night, Emily met with everyone in the yard while Thomas slept and Mrs. Francis kept watch. The plan was simple. At the next monthly fair, when Thomas would go to sell cattle, they would leave. Matthew knew a safe route to Portland, and Teresa had already been notified. We need to be careful, Emily warned. We can't give any indication that something has changed. We have to continue our normal routine. What if he suspects? Lily asked. Then we improvise, Matthew replied. But we can't think about what might go wrong. We have to focus on making it work. Sarah held Raymond's hand. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm sure I want to be wherever you are, he replied, and Sarah blushed. Louis showed a drawing he had made, all of them together smiling in front of a simple but welcoming house. This is how I imagine our new life, he said. Emily looked at the drawing and felt her heart warm. That's exactly how it's going to be. Mrs. Francis, who had approached silently, whispered, I'll help you. I've helped other girls before. I can help you too. Mrs. Francis, we don't want to put you in danger, Emily protested. Child, I've lived too long to be afraid, and I've seen too many people suffering in this house. If I can help you be free, I will. As they returned to their rooms, Emily felt for the first time that they might actually succeed. They had a plan, they had allies, and they had each other. But deep in her heart, she knew that the next few days would be the most dangerous of their lives. Thomas was not a man to accept opposition, and if he discovered what they were planning, the consequences would be unpredictable. But for now, as the rain continued to fall and wash away the dust of the countryside, Emily allowed herself to dream of freedom, and for the first time in months, she fell asleep, smiling. The preparations for the monthly fair brought a different bustle to the farm. Thomas was more attentive than ever, personally supervising every detail, as if he sensed something was different. Emily noticed that he observed her more frequently, and her heart raced every time she crossed his penetrating gaze. The time is coming, he announced during dinner on a Thursday, his voice laden with authority. When I return from the fair, I want decisions made. You've had enough time to get used to things. The silence that followed was heavy. Emily felt her hands tremble in her lap, but forced herself to maintain a neutral expression. Beside her, Sarah swallowed hard, while Lily continued playing with her food, apparently oblivious to the tension. Father, Matthew broke the silence. Maybe it's better to wait until after the harvest. We're in a very busy time. Thomas's gaze fixed on his eldest son. Matthew, are you questioning my decision? No, Father. I'm just suggesting that I don't need suggestions. I need obedience. His voice cut through the air like a whip. And grandchildren, my patience has run out. Emily saw Matthew's jaw clench, but he just nodded and went back to eating in silence. The meal continued tense, punctuated only by the sound of cutlery against plates. Later, when Thomas retired to his room, Emily found Mrs. Francis in the kitchen, washing dishes with more abrupt movements than usual. He's suspicious, the older woman murmured, without raising her eyes. I've known that man for 20 years. When he gets like this, it's because he senses trouble. Do you think he knows? I don't know, but I know you need to be even more careful. This morning, he asked if I had noticed anything different about you. Emily felt her blood freeze. What did you answer? I said girls always act strange when they're close to getting married. He seemed to accept it, but he didn't lower his guard. Mrs. Francis, maybe it's better for you to stay out of this. We don't want— No, the woman interrupted firmly. I already said I'll help, and I will, but you need to be extra careful, especially you, Emily. Why? Because he chose you for Matthew, and Matthew is the most important son to him. If something goes wrong with this marriage, he'll blame you. That night, Emily could barely sleep. Every noise in the house made her jump. Every shadow that moved on the wall seemed like a threat. When she finally fell asleep, she dreamed of chains closing around her wrists. The next day brought new challenges. Thomas announced that he would have a meeting with the priest to discuss the details of the weddings. Emily felt panic take hold of her. If the priest was called, it meant there was no more delaying. "The meeting will be on Monday," he said during lunch. "Father John will come here to talk with you, to better understand your intentions." "Our intentions?" Emily asked, surprised by her own courage. "Yes, he wants to make sure you're entering this marriage with an open heart and a willing mind." Sarah started crying softly. I don't feel ready yet." Thomas stared at her coldly. "You'll feel ready when I say you're ready. There's no choice in this." "But I'm still too young," Sarah insisted, tears rolling down her face. "Young?" Thomas laughed bitterly. "Your mother was your age when you were born. Age is no excuse for disobedience." Emily saw Raymond clench his fists under the table, but he controlled himself. Lily, finally perceiving the tension, started crying too. "Enough drama!" Thomas slammed his fist on the table. "You're going to get married, and that's final. Anyone who doesn't like it can find somewhere else to live." After lunch, Emily urgently gathered all the conspirators in the stable. The situation had become critical. "We need to accelerate the key plan," she said. "We can't wait for the next fair. We have to leave this weekend." "But it's too risky," Matthew protested. "My father won't travel before Monday." "Then we'll have to leave with him here," Emily replied. "It's our only chance." "How?" Raymond asked. "Sunday night. Mr. Thomas always sleeps heavily after Sundays. Mrs. Francis can put something in his tea to ensure he sleeps more deeply. And if he wakes up? If he discovers we've fled? Then he'll come after us, but at least we'll have a few hours head start." Lewis, who had been silent, finally spoke. "Are you sure you want to do this? My father won't give up easily." Emily held his hands. "Do you want to spend the rest of your life in fear, hiding your drawings, pretending to be someone? You're not?" Lewis looked at his brothers, then at the girls. "No, I want to be free." "Then that's it," Matthew decided. "Sunday night. Mrs. Francis will help us with Mr. Thomas and we'll leave. But if anyone wants to back out, it has to be now." No one spoke. The decision was made. That afternoon, while Emily helped Mrs. Francis prepare dinner, the older woman gave her advice she would never forget. "Child, when you get to Portland, don't look back. No matter what happens, don't look back. The past will try to pull you back, but you have to be strong." "Mrs. Francis, what about you? What will happen when he discovers you helped us?" The woman smiled sadly. "I'm old, child. I've lived my life. If I can use my last years to help you be free, that will be the best use I can make of them." Emily was moved. "Come with us. You don't have to stay here." "No. My place is here. Someone needs to take care of this house, and maybe it's time for Mr. Thomas to learn to live alone with his choices." When night fell, Emily looked out the window at the starry sky. Sunday was just 2 days away. 2 days to freedom or to complete disaster. She closed her eyes and said a silent prayer, asking for courage to face what was to come. In the room next door, Louis was drawing feverishly, as if wanting to capture every good memory of that place before leaving. And on the porch, Matthew looked at the road leading to town, imagining what it would be like to walk it without ever needing to return. The storm was forming, and everyone knew Sunday would be the day when everything would change forever. Saturday dawned with a heavy silence that seemed to foretell changes. Emily woke before the sun rose, unable to sleep any longer, and found Sarah already awake, staring at the ceiling with wide eyes. "I couldn't sleep a wink," Sarah whispered. "I keep thinking about what could go wrong." "Don't think about that," Emily replied, sitting on the bed. "Think about what could go right. Think about freedom." Lily was still asleep, and Emily found herself observing her younger sister's serene face. Tomorrow night, if all went well, they would be far from here, starting a new life. If something went wrong, she preferred not to think about that. During breakfast, Thomas made an announcement that froze everyone's blood. "Father John will arrive earlier than planned. He'll come this afternoon to talk with you." Emily let the cup slip from her hands, which were shaking uncontrollably. The china shattered on the floor and everyone looked at her. "I'm sorry," she murmured, bending down to gather the pieces. "Leave that," Thomas ordered. "Mrs. Francis will clean it later. You've been very nervous lately." "It's normal," Emily tried to justify. "It's an important decision." "Well, you'd better calm down quickly. I don't want the priest to think I'm forcing you into something you don't want." Matthew helped Emily to her feet, his fingers briefly touching hers, a gesture of support that didn't go unnoticed by Thomas. "Matthew, have you and Emily talked about the wedding?" "We have, Father. We're getting to know each other better." "Good. I hope everyone is getting along well, because after tomorrow there will be no more time for hesitation." When the priest arrived in the middle of the afternoon, Emily felt as if it were an interrogation. Father John was an elderly man with white hair and penetrating eyes that seemed to see through lies. "My child," he said to Emily, "are you happy with this approaching marriage?" Emily swallowed hard. "I'm learning to accept God's will, Father. Accepting is not the same as desiring. Do you wish to marry Matthew?" The direct question caught her off guard. Emily looked at Matthew, who was standing next to Thomas, and saw a silent plea in his eyes. He didn't want this forced marriage either. "Father," she said carefully, "I wish to be happy, and I believe God knows what the best path for that is." The priest studied her for a long moment. "Interesting answer. And you, Matthew? Do you wish to marry Emily?" "I wish for her to be happy," Matthew answered, his words carefully chosen. "And I wish for all of us to find our place in the world." Thomas interrupted. "Father, my children are shy. They were raised with modesty and respect. Of course they desire the marriage." "Let them speak for themselves," the priest said firmly. "Sarah, do you wish to marry Raymond?" Sarah started crying. I like him very much, Father, but I don't know if I'm ready to get married." "Do you feel pressured?" Sarah looked at Thomas, who was staring at her sternly. "I just want to do the right thing." "The right thing is to follow your heart," the priest said gently. "God doesn't bless marriages made out of fear or obligation." Thomas became visibly irritated. "Father, these girls are orphans. They have no life experience. I need to guide them." "Guiding is different from forcing," the priest replied. "I need to be sure these marriages are desired by both parties." The conversation continued for another hour, with the priest asking penetrating questions that left everyone uncomfortable. When he finally said goodbye, he said he would return on Monday to give his final decision. "Father," Thomas accompanied him to the door, "I hope you understand I'm doing what's best for these girls." "I hope so," the priest replied, "because God sees all our intentions." After the priest left, Thomas remained silent for a long time. Emily could feel anger emanating from him like heat from a furnace. "You made fools of yourselves," he finally said. "You let the priest think I'm forcing you." "That wasn't our intention," Emily said calmly. "No? Then why all those hesitations? Why didn't you clearly say you want to get married?" "Because we're young and we're nervous," Sarah answered, showing more courage than Emily expected. "It's natural to be afraid of such big changes." Thomas stared at her for a long moment. "Tomorrow, when the priest returns, you will make it clear that you desire these marriages. I will not accept any more hesitation." That night, Emily met one last time with all the conspirators in the stable. The tension was palpable. "We have to leave tonight," she said. "We can't wait until tomorrow. After the priest's visit, he'll be even more vigilant." "But we don't have everything prepared," Louis protested. "We have enough. Mrs. Francis has already put the medicine in his tea. He'll sleep deeply." "What if he wakes up?" Lily asked, for the first time seeming really scared. "Then we'll run faster," Matthew said, trying to reassure the little girl. "But he won't wake up. Mrs. Francis knows what she's doing." Everyone. Emily looked at each of them. "This is our last chance. If we don't leave tonight, we'll never have another opportunity." Raymond held Sarah's hand. "We're in this together, all of us." "Midnight," Matthew decided. "We meet at the back gate. Everyone takes only the essentials." "And if someone wants to back out?" Louis asked. "There's still time," Emily said, "but if we go, we all go together." No one spoke of backing out. The decision was made. When they returned to the house, Emily found Mrs. Francis in the kitchen preparing one last meal. "Is everything ready?" she asked softly. "It is. He'll sleep like a baby. You'll have at least 6 hours before he wakes. Up. Mrs. Francis, how can we thank you?" "Be free," the woman answered simply. "Be happy, that's all the gratitude I need." Emily was moved. "We'll miss you. And I'll miss you. But some people are born to fly, and you're like that. You weren't, made to live in cages." When Emily lay down that night, she knew it would be the last time she slept in that room. In a few hours she would be free, or she didn't want to think about the alternative. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, as if nature itself were restless. And in the next room, Louis was drawing one last portrait, Emily's face with a determination he had never seen before. Freedom was just hours away, or complete disaster. Only the dawn would tell which one awaited them. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us what city you're viewing us from. We continue. The clock in the living room marked 11:40, when Emily silently rose from her bed. Her heart was beating so hard that she was sure it would wake the entire house. Sarah and Lily were already waiting, dressed in their best clothes and carrying small bundles with their few belongings. "It's time," Emily whispered, and the three left the room like shadows. The corridor had never seemed so long. Each floorboard seemed to conspire against them, creaking softly under their bare feet. Emily stopped in front of Thomas's room, pressing her ear to the door. The sound of heavy snoring reassured her. Mrs. Francis's medicine had worked. In the yard, Matthew, Raymond and Louis were already waiting near the back gate. Mrs. Francis was with them, holding a small lantern and a basket of food. "Are you sure?" she asked one last time. "We are," Emily replied, embracing the older woman. "Take care of yourself, Mrs. Francis. Take care of yourselves. And remember what I said. Don't look back." Matthew had prepared the smaller wagon, covering it with a tarp so they wouldn't be seen. "We'll have to go slowly until we leave the property," he whispered. Any noise could wake the workers. One by one they climbed into the wagon. Lily was trembling, more from fear than cold. Emily pulled her close, trying to transmit courage that she herself didn't completely feel. "My drawings," Louis whispered. Suddenly, "I forgot my drawings in my room." "There's no time to go back," Matthew said. "We have to leave now." "But they're all my drawings, my whole life." "Louis," Emily held his hand, "you'll make new drawings, better ones, of our new life." Louis nodded, but Emily saw tears in his eyes. Leaving behind an entire life, even a limited one, was harder than any of them had imagined. The wagon began to move slowly. The horses, well trained, walked silently on the dirt road. Emily looked back one last time and saw Mrs. Francis waving from the kitchen window. Then darkness swallowed the house. They had travelled only about a mile when they heard the sound they feared most. Horses galloping behind them. Emily felt her blood run cold. "He woke up," Matthew said, urging the horses faster. "Hold on!" The wagon jumped and swayed on the bumpy road. Behind them, the sound of galloping grew closer. Emily turned and saw two figures on horseback, Thomas and someone else she couldn't identify in the darkness. "Faster!" shouted Raymond. "I can't, the wagon will break," Matthew replied, but whipped the horses anyway. "Stop!" Thomas's voice echoed through the night. "Stop now, or the consequences will be worse." "Don't stop," Emily shouted. "Keep going," Lily began to cry. "He's going to catch us, he's going to catch us." "No, he won't," Sarah said, hugging her younger sister. "We won't let him." The chase continued for another mile. Emily could see the anger on Thomas's face each time the moonlight illuminated his features. But then, miraculously, she saw lights ahead. The town. "There!" she shouted. "The town!" "Almost there!" Matthew shouted back. But Thomas was gaining ground. His horse was faster than the loaded wagon. Emily saw when he managed to get close enough to try to grab the side of the wagon. "You'll pay for this," he shouted. "All of you." It was then that Raymond did something no one expected. He jumped from the wagon and ran toward his father. "Father, stop!" he shouted. "Stop this!" Thomas was forced to stop his horse. "Raymond, get back in the wagon right now." "No, I can't take this anymore. I can't keep living in fear." "Raymond." "No," Sarah shouted, trying to get off the wagon too. "Stay there," Raymond shouted to her. "Keep going, I'll hold him back." "Son," Thomas dismounted from his horse, "you don't know what you're doing. These girls have confused you." "They haven't confused anything. They've shown us there's another way to live. Come back home, Raymond. All of you come back home. We can forget this happened." "We can't," Raymond said firmly. "We can't pretend we're happy anymore when we're not." While father and son argued, Matthew took the opportunity to speed up the wagon again. By the time Thomas noticed, they were already far away. "Raymond will be all right," Matthew said, noticing Sarah's anguish. "He's strong, and at least now father will have to listen to him." "But what if he hurts him?" Sarah cried. "He won't," Louis said. "Father can be rigid, but he's not violent. Raymond will be safe." When they finally reached town, Emily felt her legs trembling. They had made it. They were free. But the price had been high. Raymond had stayed behind. "Let's go to the boarding house," Matthew said. "Tomorrow morning we'll catch the train to Portland." "And Raymond?" Sarah asked. "He'll join us," Matthew replied. But Emily saw the uncertainty in his eyes. "He promised he would meet us." At the boarding house, Emily finally managed to breathe, a sigh of relief. They were safe, at least for now, but when she looked at Sarah, she saw that she was inconsolable. "I shouldn't have let him stay," she sobbed. "I shouldn't have let him." "You had no choice," Emily tried to console her. "He chose to stay to protect us." "But what if he can't get away? What if his father won't let him?" Emily had no answer for that. All she could do was hope that Raymond was really as strong as he appeared to be. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise, painting the sky pink and orange. It was a new day, the first day of their freedom. But Emily knew that freedom had a price, and they still didn't know what the final price would be. Lily fell asleep in Emily's lap, exhausted by the night's adventure. Louis was at the window, watching the movement of the town waking up. And Matthew stood guard at the door, still fearing that Thomas might appear. "We did it," he said softly to Emily. "We did," she agreed. "Now we just need to figure out how to live with this freedom." "We'll figure it out together," he replied, and Emily felt that maybe, just maybe, everything would work out in the end. The train to Portland departed at 10 in the morning, and Emily woke with a heavy heart. Sarah had spent the entire night crying for Raymond, and Lily was frightened by everything that had happened. Only Louis seemed excited by the prospect of seeing the big city. "Matthew," Emily called when he returned. "From buying the tickets, are you sure Raymond will be able to find us?" "I'm not sure of anything," he answered honestly. "But I know my brother. He's stubborn when he decides something. If he said he would find us, he will." While waiting for the train, Emily noticed a man watching them from a distance. He looked familiar, but she couldn't identify where she knew him from. When the man approached, Emily instinctively held Lily's hand. "Are you the girls from Thomas Wilson's farm?" he asked. "Who wants to know?" Matthew positioned himself in front of the sisters. "My name is Jack Peterson. I'm a friend of Teresa's. She asked me to look for you." Emily breathed a sigh of relief. "Teresa asked?" "Yes. She was worried you might try to escape before the agreed time. When she heard you had left last night, she sent me to find you." "How did she know?" Sarah asked. "Mrs. Francis managed to send a message. She's fine, by the way. Mr. Thomas didn't do anything to her." "And Raymond?" Sarah asked anxiously. Jack hesitated. "He's fine too. But there were complications." "What kind of complications?" Matthew asked. "Your father didn't take the situation well. He locked Raymond in his room and said he would only come out when he came to his senses." Sarah began to cry again. "I knew I shouldn't have let him stay." "Calm down," Jack said gently. "Teresa has a plan. But first you need to get to Portland safely." On the train, Jack told more details about what had happened at the farm. Thomas was furious but hadn't hurt anyone. He had questioned Mrs. Francis, but she had pretended to know nothing. "Does he suspect she helped you?" Emily asked. "He suspects, but he can't prove anything. And she's smart. She said you must have planned everything yourselves." And what will he do now? He'll try to find you. He has contacts in town, people who can help him. That's why Teresa thinks you should stay hidden for a few weeks. When they arrived in Portland, Emily was impressed by the size and bustle of the city. There were people everywhere, wagons, horses, and sounds she had never heard before. Lily was wide-eyed, clinging to Emily's hand. Teresa was waiting at the station, and the reunion was emotional. She hugged each of the girls as if they were her own sisters. "You were very brave," she said, "but now we need to be smart." She took them to a simple but cozy house, where she and her sister Carol lived. Carol was a cheerful woman with an easy smile who welcomed everyone warmly. "Welcome to freedom," she said. "I know it's scary at first, but you'll get used to it." That night, while everyone rested, Teresa called Emily for a private conversation. "There's something I need to tell you," she said. "Something I discovered after I left the farm." "What is it?" "Your mother didn't die in childbirth, as Mr. Thomas said." Emily felt the world spin. "What do you mean?" "She was an employee on Mr. Thomas's farm. She worked as a seamstress, like for the boy's mother. When she became pregnant with you, he sent her away. But he said our mother had died." "She did die, yes. But years later, from grief and poverty. Mr. Thomas knew where you were all along. He waited for you to grow up to bring you back." Emily was shocked. "Are you saying that he planned all this?" "I'm saying it wasn't a coincidence. He found you at the fair. He knew exactly where to look. But why? Why would he do this?" Teresa took a deep breath. "Because you're his daughters, Emily. You, Sarah, and Lily. You're sisters to the boys." The shock was so great that Emily had to sit down. "It can't be true." "It is true. Your mother told me before she died. I knew her when she still worked at the farm. Mr. Thomas always had affairs with the employees. When he discovered she was pregnant, he sent her away to avoid scandal. So he wanted us to marry our own brothers. He didn't care about that. To him, you were just another way to keep the family under control." Emily began to cry. "My God, if we had known this before!" "It wouldn't have changed anything. You still would have had to flee. But now you understand why he'll never easily give up looking for you. Do we need to tell the others?" "You do. They deserve to know the truth." When Emily told the truth to Sarah, Lily, Matthew, and Lewis, the reaction was one of absolute shock. Matthew went pale, Lewis began to cry, and Lily couldn't fully understand what was happening. "We're all siblings," Sarah said incredulously. "All this time we were a real family." "A broken family," Matthew said bitterly. Our father was going to make us commit a terrible crime." "He knew," Louis murmured. "He knew all along, and even so. That's why you all seemed familiar to us," Matthew said. "That's why we connected so quickly. And that's why he was so desperate for the marriages to happen," Emily completed. "He was losing control of the situation." "But now we know the truth," Teresa said, "and the truth has freed you for good. No matter what your father does, you'll never have to fear him again." "And Raymond?" Sarah asked. "He needs to know this." "He will know," Teresa promised. "We have a plan to get him out too." That night, Emily looked at her brothers because now she knew they truly were her brothers, and felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Sadness for all they had lost, for all the lies they had lived with. But also relief, because finally the truth had come to light. "We're a family," she said to everyone. "A real family, and now we're going to be free together." "Together," Matthew repeated. "For the first time in our lives, we're going to be a real family." And despite all the pain, Emily felt hope. They had discovered the truth. They had freed themselves. And now they could begin to build the life they had always deserved to have. 3 weeks passed since they arrived in Portland. Emily had secured work in a family home. Sarah helped Carol with sewing, and Lily attended a small school for the first time in her life. Lewis had found an art teacher who was impressed with his natural talent. Matthew worked at the port, loading merchandise, but for the first time in his life he worked by his own choice. Despite the progress, everyone missed Raymond. Sarah had lost weight from worry, and Emily knew they needed to do something to bring him to them as well. It was on Thursday afternoon that Jack appeared with news that changed everything. "Raymond managed to escape," he announced as soon as he arrived. "He's coming here, but he's not alone. What do you mean? Emily asked. Mrs. Francis came with him, and there's more. Mr. Thomas is coming after them. They arrive tomorrow on the morning train. Fear took hold of everyone. After 3 weeks of peace, the threat was returning. Can he force us to go back? Lily asked, frightened. He can't, Teresa responded firmly. You're adults, you have jobs, you live somewhere else. He has no legal right over you. But you don't know our father, Matthew said. He doesn't give up easily. Then we'll face him, Emily decided, all together as a family. The next day, Emily, Sarah, Lily, Matthew, and Louis went to the station to wait for the train. When the locomotive stopped, Emily saw Raymond get off, helping a visibly tired Mrs. Francis. Behind them, imposing and furious, came Thomas. The reunion between Sarah and Raymond was emotional. They embraced as if they hadn't seen each other for years, and Emily saw tears in both their eyes. Mrs. Francis, Emily ran to hug the older woman. Why did you come? Because my place is with you, she answered. That house is no longer my home. You are my family now. Thomas approached, and Emily saw that he had aged years in just 3 weeks. His eyes were more sunken, his face more marked. Enough of this nonsense, he said with an authoritative voice. You're coming back home with me. Now. We're not, Emily replied calmly. We're not children anymore. We can choose our own lives. You don't understand anything about life. Without me, you're nothing. Without you, Matthew said, stepping forward. We're free. Free? Thomas laughed bitterly. You think you can survive on your own? You know nothing about the world. We know enough not to want to live a lie, Sarah said, surprising everyone with her courage. What lie? The lie that you brought us to marry us, Emily said. We know the truth. We know we're your children. Thomas's face went livid. Who told you that? Does it matter? The truth always comes out. Well, if you know the truth, you know you have an obligation to me. I'm your father. You owe me respect and obedience. A father isn't who conceives, Louis said, his voice trembling with emotion. A father is who loves, who protects, who wants the best for his children. You were never our father. I gave you everything, a home, food, protection. You gave everything except freedom, Raymond said, except love, except choice. You don't know what you're doing, Thomas was visibly shaken. Without me, you'll starve. You'll suffer. Maybe, Emily admitted, but at least we'll suffer freely and we'll be together like a real family. I am your family. No, Lily said with the typical honesty of children. Family is who cares if you're happy. You never cared if we were happy. For a moment, Thomas seemed to break. Emily saw tears in his eyes and for an instant felt sorry for him. But then he composed himself, becoming once again the hard man. He always was. You'll regret this, he said. When you're in need, you'll regret it. Perhaps, Emily replied. But we won't regret having tried to be free. Thomas stared at them for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he took an envelope from his pocket and handed it to Emily. This belonged to your mother, he said. She left it for you. Emily opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a small amount of money, some simple jewelry, and a letter written in delicate handwriting. My dear children, Emily read aloud, if you're reading this, it's because you finally discovered the truth. I always knew that one day you would be strong enough to choose your own path. The money and jewels are little, but they were saved with love. Use them to start a new life, a free life. Be happy, my loves. Be free. With all my love, your mother. Everyone was crying, including Thomas. She always believed you wouldn't need me, he said. She always said you were too strong to live in cages. Then why did you try to imprison us? Emily asked gently. Because I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid of being alone, afraid that you would abandon me like everyone always did. It didn't have to be this way, Matthew said. We could have been a real family. We still can be, Emily said, extending her hand to him, if you want, but it has to be your choice, not our obligation. Thomas looked at the extended hand, then at each of his children. I don't know how to be different, he said. I don't know how to be a father. Learn, Mrs. Francis said kindly. "It's never too late to learn." You would accept me back?" "We would," Emily replied, "but it has to be on our terms, respecting our choices, respecting our freedom." Thomas nodded slowly. I would like to try." 6 months later, Emily looked out the window of the house they had bought together with their mother's money and everyone's work. It was a small house but cozy, where each person had their space and their freedom. Thomas had sold the farm and moved to Portland. He was slowly learning to be a father instead of a master. Sarah and Raymond had married for love, in a simple but joyful ceremony. Louis was studying art and already selling some of his drawings. Lily was attending school and learning to read. Matthew had opened a small transport business. And Emily. Emily had discovered she had a knack for teaching and worked at a school for underprivileged children, helping other people find their freedom through education. "Are you happy?" Mrs. Francis asked, sitting beside her on the porch. "I am," Emily replied, watching her siblings playing in the yard. "For the first time in my life, I'm truly happy. Your mother would be proud. I think so. We achieved what she always wanted for us, freedom and love." That evening, as the sun set over Portland, Emily felt she was finally complete. She had her family, her freedom, and her future in her own hands. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. As Mrs. Francis had said one day, some people are born to fly and they had finally learned to use their wings. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.